Gillmor gang. It's on Zoom, which we love and fear simultaneously. Joining us late will be Michael Markman. So when he comes in, we'll all be very quiet and then surprise. No, in Palo Alto, Keith Teare.
I noticed that Steve's in a very good mood today, which may have something to do with the new iPad Pro.
Just as long as you don't try and do a screen capture, I'm okay with that. Brent, Leary in Atlanta, how's it going there?
Going.
Okay. And equally voluble, Denis Pombriant. Welcome, Denis.
Hey there. How you doing today, Steve?
I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. It's kind of early.
Let's see. And then we've got Frank Radice in London. Hi, Frank.
Hello, Steve.
Is that
Hello,
a
Tina.
London bookshelf?
Hello, gang. I don't know where that bookshelf is from. I have no idea. I'll put my living room back up then.
I feel like I should say hello, Newman, after all those.
Hello, Newman.
Newman has to have the appropriate sneer in the voice.
Hello, Newman. Have you seen the new Seinfeld hour on Netflix?
Yes, we have. It was
Oh, right. Yeah.
Refreshingly mediocre.
I thought so too. I was kind of surprised. I was expecting craziness, and I got
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got a never-ending royalty stream that makes him the richest man on earth. So his insights about what really is pissing him off are a little difficult to, little 1% for me.
Perfect for this time in history. He is, definitely, but perfect for this time in history. Listen to the 1% complain.
Glad to hear you all say that, though, because we stopped watching it about halfway through, and I was thinking that I'd changed, but looks like he's changed.
What mic are you on? I hesitate to ask, Keith, because it's a little light. Either raise the level or switch mics.
Ooh, that sounds good.
1, 2. I am on in my best mic.
Okay, great. Then just speak up.
Okay.
Ooh.
What? Turn my volume up. Never occurred to me. How do you do that on these things?
You're such a Luddite. Are you?
I am totally. As Keith has already alluded to, I'm midway between exiting OS. What is it? 10 and iOS.
There's a physical button on the top left of the screen, Steve.
Are you serious?
If you talk,
No,
Okay, let's
this is
see.
the Magic Keyboard version 12.
Yeah, I think we're about this. It's been a good show, guys. Really.
Hey, you can't do better than this, I'm telling you. All right.
I can hear you.
So, we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and I am going to exit my moderating duties by saying, how about that Twitter?
Well, it seems like such an old story now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we're living in dog years, and there's no doubt 2 days ago, it was 3 days ago, it was a big deal. I mean, geez, is this guy is it gonna hurt him worse than it hurts us? I would think so. Does it matter at this point? I don't think so. There's so much more going on. We just had demonstrations in London that I didn't even know about until I got a notification that they were civilized demonstrations, unlike what's going on in America.
Yes.
What Twitter should do is Twitter should fact check all of the mayors and governors who are claiming that the problem is rioters and looters and forgetting that the problem is actually murder.
Yep.
Exactly. You know, and I also think that there is a really interesting thing going on, and it's really kind of taken over in social media, and that is this divide between those people who say that it's the Antifa people who are creating all the problems, and those other people who are saying that it's the white supremacists who are creating all the problems. And it's just a crazy conversation going on in social media right now, and all of it, again, as you say there, Keith, is ignoring the fact that this is about a murder.
And
I don't know if it's about a murder.
three of the culprits have yet to be arrested or charged. Well, 4 of them have yet to be charged, I think. Oh, no, one's been charged.
Yeah, third degree murder.
But how do you expect people who are angry and scared to, and want to be on the streets to act reasonably? There's no way people are going to act reasonably.
I agree with that,
many
but,
people do act reasonably.
It's much more than a murder.
Many people do act reasonably. Most of them do. I've seen reports from our local demonstration in Seattle, which was very calm, apparently, until the cops set off some flashbang grenades. And then suddenly it turned into a different kind of event.
Yeah. But you're right, Mike. Most people are acting reasonably, but I don't think changing the focus to those people who are not doesn't serve anyone other than the murderers.
Yes, but also I have to say this about the murder: the demonstrations aren't about the murder. The murder was a triggering event. The demonstrations are about years of police murder and years of systemic racism.
Thank you.
Yeah, fair enough. You're right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort
Plus
of
it all-
if this
it
was the
all
only
just-
thing that happened, nothing would have happened. This was, it's the last
Right.
straw. It's the straw that broke the camel's back.
It wasn't even the last thing that happened, or the first thing that happened that week. I mean,
Yeah.
you had the lady in the park basically trying to kill the bird watcher by cop, by
Yeah.
calling him all worked up, saying that he was, coming after her and all this stuff. And he's just calmly just pointing his camera at her. She's about to kill the dog, by the way. That she's getting herself all worked up, and we know what. And she threatened. He said, "I'm going to call the cops and tell them an African American man is threatening." I mean, all of that, and then you got the murder. And
Well, you
all of this
also
on
had
video.
Atlanta. You also had 2 murders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you had 3 actually, because you had the young lady that they went into her apartment and killed her, and her boyfriend called 911, and then you had the one down here as well. But I think the one about the Floyd murder was really bad because it was like a slow death. The guy had his knee on the guy's neck for 9 minutes, and they all just stood there watching it. And I think they said the last 2.5 minutes he wasn't even moving.
Right.
He was already dead. It was torture. It was
The most frightening image. The most frightening image of all those was a picture of the officer with his hand in his pocket, staring directly at the camera, and the expression on his face, I think, really said, fundamentally what's going on here, which is that it's a culture of
Legal murder.
yeah, exactly. But
and all the time saying, "Get in the car," but not letting him up to get in the car. I thought it was just, the whole thing was just horrible.
But I think there are two important moments here beyond the horror of the personal situation, which is, one, everybody has a camera. And
Thank God.
Yeah, or nobody would have known about this. Not that we didn't already know what it was about. And then secondly, I disagree with the notion that Twitter is a story that was submerged by all of what's going on. I mean, that's like saying that the virus lost control of the front page to this.
Temporary. In any of these cases, it's temporary because obviously, Steve, the Twitter story is going to come back. The virus story is absolutely going to come back, if not harder than ever before. The economic story and all, the 40 million people out of work isn't going to go away. I mean, it's kind of like some story kind of just bubbles up to the top for a little while, and then somebody blows on it and it goes down. And so I just think that's sort of where we are right now. And
I don't think this is a story. What's happening with Twitter. I think that this is fundamental, along with the cameras. It's fundamental to what's happened. Is that they're everybody? Not only are they angry and scared, and everything else that's going on, but they also can broadcast in real time, and that's where the unification of the camera and Twitter comes into play.
Yeah.
So I think that
the camera isn't just a camera. The camera is also a broadcast transmitter. It's also a station.
Absolutely.
You not only have a camera in your pocket, you have a station in your pocket, and you have the ability to promote your station in your pocket.
Well, but it doesn't. It's all social media. Actually, it's not just about Twitter. I mean, it's because you need a place to distribute that imagery. And the easiest place to distribute it is on social media.
Well, I'm going to be fairly relentless about this. It is about Twitter. If you take a look at what Mark Zuckerberg says, it's basically, no, we have a business model and we're going to stick with it. That's their political perspective. And, whatever you think of Jack Dorsey or his persona as evidenced by the media and so on. I think they, as a company, they did something pretty interesting. And I don't know what the ramifications of it are going to be. And, that goes on the pile with the virus and every other thing that's happening. Is who the hell knows what's going to happen. But at least somebody stood up and said, excuse me.
The weird thing for me is I completely empathize with Dorsey, and I do not empathize with Zuckerberg. But I think Zuckerberg's right and Dorsey's wrong.
I don't know what that means.
Well, Dorsey's basically saying that we're going to start adding content to an individual's tweets if we think that they are doing certain things. There's a list of bullet points. One of them is telling the wrong facts. The second is inciting violence. There's a few of them.
Well, that's not accurate. What he's actually saying is these are our terms of service, and we're actually going to work with them in relationship to the President of the United States.
It's true.
He's not changing any rules.
The terms of service are not static. They've been evolving. And so, by the way, as Facebook's terms of service evolved, they made some changes yesterday. But
what were they, and how do they relate to the impact of what Twitter is doing to basically say, okay, we understand this is a special case. He's a newsworthy node on the network, but we're not just going to sit here.
Well, I think the problem for me, and the reason I disagree, is I think they should just sit there because they can rely on the human race to be adults and do that job for them.
How's that going in the election?
Yeah, really.
I'm just saying.
There's a point that's being missed here, and it's that if Twitter, in the person of Jack Dorsey, doesn't do anything, then it has lost control of its property. And it has to be the final arbiter of what goes up on its property, or it doesn't have the property.
To that extent, what Dorsey is doing is saying that the terms of service that apply to everyone else also apply to the Twitterer in chief. Because otherwise, it's one set of rules for him and another set of rules for the rest of it.
Absolutely.
It's the opposite. They are not doing this to everyone. They're not. You go and try and find another tweet that they do this on.
They simply suspend the account.
Well, so it isn't one rule for everyone.
No,
Because then they would then suspend the Twitter-in-Chief's account.
I mean, if it was, yes, you're right. If it was one rule for everyone, then Trump would not have an account.
And that's what the Washington Post was alluding to. Not even alluding to. They were saying, "Let's go do this, Mr. Dorsey. Let's make this happen. Show us your balls."
So if we probably all agree that Trump lies. He purposefully lies. He incites racism. He incites violence. Tick, 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 tick. So Dorsey's instinct about the violation is completely accurate. So my point's nothing to do with that. My point is, and I've run online services. I ran an ISP where the police asked me to police what was in news groups back in 1994. This is a long-standing thing. And 230, by the way, 230 is there to protect people like me and Dorsey from being liable for the content on their system. And you know, as a carrier, like a phone company, not an editor, you're safe. The minute you become an editor, you have to edit everyone the same. Everyone.
Well,
I don't agree with that.
Wasn't a moderator? Weren't the moderators?
That everybody has to be treated the same. First of all, everybody is not treated the same. So that may be, and the rule of 230 is a work in progress. Everybody's making all this stuff up as they go along. So to say that somehow this is protecting people, it will, but it may not.
Yeah, well, it will not if it goes away. I mean,
that's like saying, you know, if the profit motive goes away, then everything will be different. Yeah, okay.
Dorsey's
Everything will be broken.
actions of taking control over content on the platform will lead to him being responsible for content on the platform.
Yeah, that's the Zuckerberg scenario, and it might be right, and it might not be.
Well,
I applaud him for making an effort and then trying to explain it.
I'm the same. That's why I said.
So then we are all in agreement if you agree with that. Right now, I think everybody else is in agreement. But I think
I know
I'm still lobbying for some sort of historical, frame on which to be able to place something that is clearly unanticipated.
It is a turning point, but where it's turning, I can't tell you.
Nobody can. I don't think.
Minority of one, Steve. I assume.
Sorry?
I agree that I'm probably in a minority of one on this right now, but I do think I have some insight here because I've actually run an online service and had the state ask me to do things, and I've seen the consequences of agreeing to do things. Now, this isn't the state; this is him. But once he agrees to do things, you know, the law starts to influence his actions, and it's a slippery slope. That's what I'm saying. And the end result of it doesn't sound like democracy. It sounds like China.
Well, did he agree to He agreed to Kara Swisher.
I disagree with Kara Swisher.
No,
strong.
I'm saying Jack Dorsey wasn't asked to do this by the state.
Not yet.
All of this actually goes back a couple hundred years to common carrier status. Social media and the internet have been skirting that issue, and it hasn't helped that the Trump administration rolled back the effort to produce common carrier environment on the internet that was promulgated by the Obama administration. The other problem is that guys like Zuckerberg want to have it both ways. They want to be publishers, but they don't want to have responsibility for publishing. So then they say that, well, you know, we're just plumbing. We're just the platform. But in point of fact, they're doing both. And the way to rationalize all of social media and the internet is to force them to have separate entities controlling each. A parent company can certainly own Facebook, the apps publisher, and the Facebook, the infrastructure company. But until we do something like that, we're just going to be playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah, there is a solution in product, which is Twitter could just implement a fact check feature, which created a thread where anyone could fact check anything from anyone else, and let the crowd fact check.
Well, doesn't that happen now?
Sorry?
Isn't that what happens now?
No, Twitter has a central authority doing the fact checking.
Yes, but in addition to the central authority, there is crowd fact checking.
Yeah, people responding to these tweets all the time. I mean, everybody, you put something out, there's about, tens of thousands of people that are gonna, respond to it in some way or the other. I don't know. It's maybe not official fact checking, but it's there.
I mean, almost every tweet that Trump puts up is quote tweeted with a refutation or replied to with a refutation.
That's my point. Why do you need Twitter to do anything?
Why do you not need Twitter to do something? Why does Twitter suddenly not have the ability to be able to try and figure something out? I mean, all these other things are in place.
They can.
Peg Weiner's been talking since the dawn of time about how the internet is self-healing, that it's auto-correcting, et cetera, et cetera. Well, how's that going for the fake news? It's not going well.
There's one other factor that I really can't talk about in detail because I don't understand it, but that has to do with Twitter's and Facebook's algorithms for what they display to whom. A lot of what goes on in Facebook is invisible to most people because, well, first, practically, they can't present the fire hose to everyone. So they need some kind of algorithm to filter things out. And part of what they've done is create a whole bunch of silos that are completely invisible to each other. On Twitter, things are much more open, and the barriers and the silos are less complete.
Yep.
Well, you could certainly make an argument that by using the bully pulpit up on Twitter, Trump is making himself unequal to everyone else who's trying to use Twitter and is poisoning the well. And for that reason, it would make perfect sense for Twitter to try to level the playing field, which I think is, at the end of the day, basically what Dorsey tried to do with those 2 amendments or tags to Trump's tweets this week.
Well, it's a matter of, I mean, if he didn't have 80 million followers on Twitter, who would care? There's people, like somebody said before, there's much worse being tweeted even by Trump, by these unknown people, but they only have like a handful of followers. So who cares? But when you have 80 million people and you are the president, and you can go on TV.
Right. It's not an equal playing field. It's completely skewed in favor of Trump.
I think
so. Keith, when you were moderating, what year did you say that was? Or when you had that social media site, what year was that?
Oh, it was 1994 through 97. It was EasyNet.
Okay. Well, and of course, the 230 didn't happen until 96. So prior to 96, the way that those things were fact checked basically was that a chat room had a moderator, right? And that each of these groups, any group that you got into, there would be a moderator who would determine whether or not you would stay, that you were following that person's rules, I guess, right?
Well, what I'm talking about, Frank, is the Usenet system. I don't know if you remember Usenet, NNTP. It's like TCP. It's one of the protocols on the internet. And NNTP had, alt.gov.
Right.
Test or whatever.
I remember. Yeah. No, but I'm talking about how how an individual would interact, not necessarily with that as a a big thing, but any way that there was any interaction on the internet prior to 1996.
Well, but at that time, there were two different environments. There was a chat room environment, and then there was also a bulletin board posting environment.
Yeah,
And
and
they-
both of those
they
were
operated
deprecated by Twitter and then Facebook. I think the signal to noise on news groups was out of control, and now it's out of control in a social environment. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't superseded. I mean, I think that the RSS lost a lot of traction because it did not incorporate the social signal, and I think that what we're seeing right now is I don't know what we're seeing right now, but I do know that this is an important thing that's going on. I don't understand necessarily what Frank's point that he was trying to make.
No, I'm just saying that that seemed to be an effort on the part of the nascent social media to moderate the conversations.
Well,
and then,
Frank, I think it's the other way around. From the earliest date that I was involved, which was '94, and we were the first consumer ISP in Europe. Spry was the US equivalent of what we did. From the very earliest moment there was an internet, the authorities tried to persuade the service providers to take responsibility for the content going across the wire. To Denis's point, the common carrier issue. And 230 was a compromise. It was, if you agree to take some responsibility, we won't hold you accountable for everything. But if you don't agree to take responsibility, we're going to force you to. So it's been this standoff between the infrastructure managers, let's say, and the state. And the state agreed to a compromise, which is now being threatened by Trump. And the catalyst for that was Dorsey's decision, obviously, but I'm not blaming him for that. I'm just describing the catalyst.
mm-hmm.
Oh, of course you are. You're blaming him because you're saying that Trump's actions are as a result of what Dorsey did, which I don't think that's accurate.
You can't be blind to the consequences of decisions. And when you run an ISP, I know it, you do think through every small detail based on the consequences. Because if you don't...
But Twitter is not an ISP.
It's this equivalent. It's a social network which replaced ISPs. ISPs are a commodity product these days.
So what was CompuServe?
No, what it is here's what they have in common. An organization sitting on top of the wires with content flowing through, where the state consistently is asking you to police it for them, and you consistently say no. We have that much in common, ISPs and Twitter, but then the minute you say yes, it changes the whole game.
Yeah, but that's I won't call it a political theory of yours, but it's a political theory of yours. that now that the cow's out of the barn. I don't know what the lousy metaphor is. Cat's out of the bag. Thank you.
Yeah, they're both good.
Yeah,
The horse.
they're working really well right now. I can tell.
Yeah, a horse. Yeah, it was a horse.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, it's a horse.
So
Yeah,
let me try and refocus this just a little bit from the issue of what used to happen and why it happened that way, and now that everything is under threat. And let me ask everybody on the show. This is my favorite moment, by the way, when people get to vote and try and weasel their way out of voting.
Vote.
So, what I want to see a yes or no to some question. I'll make up the question now. The question is:
Do you support Medicare for all?
well, that's a good one, but we'll do that on the next show. I mean, the answer is I think everybody does now that the virus is in charge. But the question is Jack Dorsey and our Twitter as an entity, are they going to be successful in changing the dialogue about this issue from the one that we've been stuck in, particularly with Facebook, for at least 3 or 4 years? Is he going to be successful at doing that, or is Trump going to be successful in making outrageous threats that he can't really accomplish? All right, we'll start with Keith.
Trump's going to be successful making
at making threats that are that he can't actually. What threat is he making to Twitter or the social networks that he can actually accomplish?
rescinding 230.
Well, first of all, he's not going to rescind it. It was who's going to rescind it?
He can make an executive decision.
According to the media that I've read about it, no, he can't.
I don't think it's an executive order can do that. Isn't that that has to be done by the Congress?
You're right. It's a congressional thing. It's been reported.
Trump will be successful because he and his supporters.
That's not my question. My question is, will he be successful at using threats to change the dynamic? In other words, does he have any power to do what he says he can do?
It's a bad question. That is not his goal.
Bad question. It's my show. I'm asking the question.
Okay, then the answer's pointless because that isn't his goal. But yeah, no.
Right. So now we've got pointless, bad show. Yes, that you say that Trump is going to be successful. Is he going to be successful at using threats to make any difference at all in this argument?
He's going to win the election. It's going to get worse.
Oh, so
I think he's going to lose the election. It's going to get better.
Good. So now we've got 2 people that have voted. Brent, you're laughing too much. It's your turn.
Could you ask that again? Because I kind of got lost.
No.
I kind of got lost.
Is Trump going to be successful at undermining or limiting the power of the social networks? Yes or no?
So are you talking legally?
No, just, actually. I mean, what part of legal does Trump do on any level?
Because this guy doesn't care about actually doing things. He just wants to be able to talk enough about something to throw everybody off and keep us from the real thing at hand. Like, the whole the Ukraine thing. We, every time we started talking about certain things, he starts going in a different direction. And because he has the megaphone, he completely throws off things until we forget exactly what we were supposed to be talking about.
Okay, so that's we got 2 people who voted. One says that Trump is going to be successful because he's going to win the election. Then we've got this guy here in London saying that no, he's going to lose the election, so he isn't going to be successful.
So is the election then the answer? Do you think he's going to win the election because of all
I
this?
think that bringing in the election is Keith's way of trying not to answer the question. So what do you think? Do you think he's going to win the election?
Well, I said yes the last time, so
I'm giving you an opportunity to back away.
I haven't seen anything yet that's telling me that he's actually going to lose. So I'm not changing my answer.
So my original question, however, was: is he going to be successful with his threats at making any difference in terms of the power of social networks?
I'll just say I don't think he's going to be successful in getting rid of the 230 law. How about that?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Michael Markman.
I'm not sure how you define success. Will he? What? How would you know that he's successful? How would you know he failed? We're going to be
exactly. I totally agree with you.
We're going to be in a kind of steady state. How many more actions does Twitter have to take before we know that Trump has failed? They have blocked one tweet or hidden one tweet, and they've
November 3rd. We'll know on November 3rd.
So then you are accepting the test as the election.
No, that's just my personal perspective on this. Is that
No, but I'm not.
and we all
saying you're
survived
wrong.
long
How-
enough to get through the election.
Yes, I hope so. If you're asking about the election, that's one thing. I just don't know how you define success in this case. What Trump succeeds at doing is hijacking conversations, and in that he will be successful. Will he be successful in changing the law? Probably not. Will he be successful in moderating what Jack Dorsey does? Probably not. But he will succeed.
Okay, good. So I'll take that as a no. He will not be successful.
But he's going to. He's
I understand
doing
I understand what you're saying about.
He's going to meet his own goals, though. He will meet his own goals.
I don't care what his goals are. I'm just.
Well, he
talking
moves
about-
the goal anyway. So
I mean, to me, Twitter is one of the most important assets of the digital transformational revolution. So it's up for grabs right now. There is a dialogue going on between the government, or actually a trilogue going on between the government, Trump, and the social networks. And this has been called into play because Jack Dorsey and the board at Twitter, I guess, made a decision that they were going to try and split the baby here and actually push back on the notion that the president has every right to say, the most outlandishly false stuff and get away with it, or whether there were going to be some service limitations on his ability to. I mean, they're not stopping him from saying anything. They're not censoring him, although they think and say that he is being censored. How is he being censored?
He's
Well,
been,
his tweet is being hidden. He's being half censored. His
How?
they just put a bushel basket over what he said. Now you as a user have the ability to
No,
look.
they have the terms of service. There are two different things that they did. The one about the the riots and the political situation.
Right, looting, shooting.
Right. They didn't censor what he said.
No,
They
but they put a bushel
something
basket
in
over it.
between.
And they said, if you want to see it, click here. But we don't think you should see it because it's bad.
the
Yeah,
only,
but that's just their opinion too.
Yeah,
It is
can I weigh
not
in?
censorship.
It's my turn, isn't it?
I hope
It
so.
always is. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It has been
here's
so
the thing.
far.
Here's the thing. You've basically described a Pyrrhic victory in that Trump
On whose part?
could win. He could squash Dorsey. He could squash social media in his own way. That won't happen because Trump understands, as Trump is a real political animal. He understands that the price he would pay for doing that would be too high. It would certainly contribute to losing the election. So what have we got? We've got Trump. Trump did some bad things. Dorsey fired 2 shots across the bow. We're at a status quo ante at this point. If Trump has the ability to walk away from this and claim victory, which I think he'll do, and he won't get up to that line again, at least for a long time, before Dorsey has to do something else. So I think we're going to have this uneasy truce for quite a while, maybe for the rest of Trump's first and only term. And I think that's it. I think Dorsey isn't looking to escalate. Trump is smart enough not to escalate now that he has issued his executive order.
I think that he may or may not be smart about anything, but I think he loses ground and credibility on a fundamental level by making threats that he can't sustain.
He does
But he's
that
done
all
his
the
entire-
time.
oh yeah, he does that all the time. I'm
Yeah,
with you,
I
Dennis.
think he
Stock and
loses
trade.
strength every time he
loves to
does
do
it.
that. He makes so many threats that he can't support that it doesn't matter.
No, I disagree.
polluted the environment.
It matters
with
if he's unelected on November 3rd, then it mattered.
Yes.
did Dennis?
he's got other threats to deal with, like threatening to cancel the election, perhaps, or telling people how wonderful his response to COVID has been. He is not going to spend another fraction of a second on this Twitter problem unless Dorsey does something, and he will not transgress the line that Dorsey has put in place.
Look,
Again,
we
everybody's
know that,
learned something.
right? We know that Trump's threats have a limit because Twitter is his oxygen. He's not going to cut off his own oxygen supply. So it is, I think, exactly shots across the bow. And
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. What I'm saying, in addition to that, is he's losing significant leverage by making threats that he can't actually sustain.
And
Doing that his whole presidency.
I don't think so. I don't think he's losing any leverage. I don't think actually it matters. Not to the people that are already interested in him becoming the president a second time. I don't think they care.
But that's 45%
This is
at
all
max.
his reality show. It's theater. It's political theater. It's
All of that's
Spooky.
fine. But what I'm saying is that, by stopping the one social network that has at least the illusion of being accessible by anybody at any time, we've already got this virus to worry about. We've got this horrendous, racial divide, and the possibility of, martial law being, on TV already. Is this an important right, to put it in democratic terms? The right to have access to Twitter, is this something that will change the election? I think it is, and I think it will.
Why would
Did any of you see his speech yesterday after the SpaceX launch, which was incredible in its lack of bite? It was a kind of an optimistic, forward-looking, aspirational, and at the front of that speech, he talked about what was going on in the cities on the ground, and played the tough man for about 5 minutes in terms of how unacceptable it is. He kind of is echoing what a lot of people on the left are saying, which is it's fine to protest, it's right to be angry about the death of George Floyd, it's wrong to loot and burn. And then he went on and did this aspirational stuff about the rocket ship. And then he said he wants to cancel the G7 and add, because he thinks Italy, France, Germany, and the UK is a backward-looking alliance of nations, and he wants to add Russia, South Korea, blah, blah. He is not a man that's losing it. He is a man that is completely in control of his message and what he's trying to achieve. And
if he loses the election, is that what you just said true?
Sorry, Steve, I've missed the first part of your question.
If he loses the election, is he a powerful man who's completely in control of everything that he does? I doubt it.
No, you can lose an election and still be good.
Well, in his case, I think he's afraid of being put in jail if he loses the election.
Don't we think that he put himself in an awkward position vis-a-vis the fact that Twitter is so important to him and his communication to everybody out there that by doing this? It just struck me when this happened as, what the hell? It's like, the old adage of cutting your nose off to spite your face. It just seemed like that's what I was looking at, right?
Exactly.
That's what I said just a moment ago. It's his oxygen supply. He's not going to turn off his own oxygen. It's
all theater.
Yeah, no, I agree with Dennis. It's all theater, but there's a game plan in the theater. It's not stupid theater. It's considered theater.
I suggest to you that Jack Dorsey did this, not Donald Trump.
Jack Dorsey did do it.
That's right. And I think that he's betting. I think they're betting on, no, we're not censoring you. I think that they're betting on you are not emperor of Congress. I think that can he cancel the G7?
He can, yeah. He's the
Well,
host.
he can cancel the Washington D.C. meeting of the G7 or the
Exactly.
Doral meeting of the G7, but it'll become the G6, and they'll do it without him if they do it at all. But I don't see that if he says he's going to cancel it, there won't be one, and everyone else is going to be able to say it's because it's not safe to do it.
Didn't Angela Merkel already say she wasn't coming?
She did.
So we're down to G6 anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, Angela Merkel canceled it.
By the way, he is correct that those 7 nations don't represent the future of the world. They represent the past.
Yeah, but the ones he wants in there, I mean, Russia. I mean, the only reason he put the other 3 countries in there is so he could say Russia and it wouldn't be just Russia. I mean, that's kind of what he's. And this guy, all he does is double down. I think he really doesn't believe that anything he does, he will ever end up in jail for. He will double down. He will never say I'm wrong about anything. He'll take full credit for everything and give the blame to anybody. When something goes wrong, it's the same modus operandi with this guy. So he is going to go down with the ship. He's not going to equivocate. He's going to double down until something happens where he actually loses.
I think that he's every time something else happens, this guy goes, "Oh God, thank God that happened," and that's the dog years we're living in. This one big thing happens, and then he's stuck in an area that he can't do much about, and then something else really big happens, and he goes, "Thank God now that happened, so I don't have to worry about it," and so on and so on and so on. And now we're like 3 or 4 levels down from it, and it's only been, like I said at the very beginning, a few days.
Well, Steve Bannon let that cat out of the bag early on. I think in 2016, he said that the enemy is the media, and the way you deal with them is to just flood the zone with shit. So people move on to the next thing.
By the way, we're not talking about Biden. You can only win or lose against an opponent, and if your opponent is Biden, I don't know. I don't feel I would love Biden to win. I want Biden to win. I don't.
Oddly enough, as invisible as you think Biden is, every poll consistently shows him 5 to 7 to 9 points ahead.
Yeah,
that's because this election isn't about Biden. This election does. You could put I was going to say a monkey up, but you could put almost anybody except Hillary Clinton. Apparently, you could put anybody up against him, and it's all about him. I mean, it's completely about the guy who's in the office. I mean, it's usually like that anyway, but it's even more so now.
Look, I actually think that his number 2 choice is going to really be an important choice. I mean, a bigger and more important choice than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for. You're right, Brent. It's Trump's problem. It's his to lose, and Biden can, as Michael says, all of the polls are showing him ahead. Everything except for in males for some reason. Non-college educated males. Which may be the only group, and the Republican Party. But his number 2 choice is going to be a huge game changer, I think.
45%.
I think you're right.
45% plus the Electoral College it's a toss-up, right? I mean, none of us really know.
Not if Biden's in front by 9 points.
Depends. If
5 points, yes, I agree with you. But 9 points, I don't think so.
Those 9 points are because he's up 90 points in California. It'll make no difference.
Yes, but if you look at the state polls, he's ahead in most of the battleground states as well.
Right.
You got to believe what Trump won Michigan by 10,000 votes. That's a fraction of a percentage. I mean, so if Biden picks a VP candidate that, let's say, excites people and kind of gets more people a reason to go, he should win. All he has to do is kind of stay out of the way and get a running mate that will, excite the people who aren't excited by him on board. He should win. But we'll see.
But is that, I don't know, in a world historical sense, is that good enough? I don't know if that's good enough.
For the current time?
Yeah. I think that Americans think that good enough is okay for this election.
In fact, as Brent was talking, I thought that maybe Biden's chief asset is that he was the most bland of all the candidates, so that all of the anti-Trump people could say, "Yeah, I'm okay with Biden," whereas some people would not be okay with Bernie, and some people would not be okay with Kamala Harris. Some people would not be okay, etc. Nobody's really going to object to Biden, so all the anti-Trump energy can go to him.
Okay, quick snap poll. Starting with Keith, who's going to be the VP nominee?
Because Biden is the one, it depends who's choosing. If Biden's choosing, and only Biden, I had to give a different answer to if the DNC is choosing and advising him. So if Biden,
so let's hear both answers then.
So if Biden's choosing, I think it's going to be male and white. If
he already announced he
can't do that. He can't do that.
Even though he said it's going to be female.
He didn't. He just said he's considering a bunch of females. He didn't.
No, he said
he was a female.
He said
he would have a female vice president.
Yeah, he may walk back.
If he chose a male at this point, it's he will lose.
Then he loses. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's going to be the candidate?
If the DNC's advising him, it won't be Kamala Harris. It won't be Amy Klobuchar. It'll be some other black woman who they like or don't feel threatened by.
I saw an interview with him where he signaled that the Supreme Court pick would definitely be a black woman.
Oh, that. Yeah.
But I thought that he was basically moving away from committing to a black woman as the VP.
I think he didn't want to commit. He already had committed to a woman, and then. These guys ask these questions, and it's all about trying to kind of, put you in a corner and say yes or no to something they want you to say yes or no to. But I thought he was smart to say, look, I'm not going to go play that game right now. I mean, I already said I'm going to pick a woman. I'm not going to, get any more specific than that. I think that was smart.
Yeah. So we have no who's the answer? You don't have a candidate, Keith, correct?
Did you see the black woman who was a mayor somewhere in Florida speaking out?
Val Demings.
She's a representative.
Yeah.
So if you say that, then I've got my answer. So is that what you're saying?
That's who I'd like him to pick.
That's
Val Demings?
the answer I'm looking for is who do you think is going to get the VP nomination?
It's so hard because you cross off Amy Klobuchar.
I know it's really. I'm sorry to put you in this position.
Hillary Clinton.
No, you're not. You like this.
Hillary Clinton.
Not a bit sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
You're gonna choose Hillary.
You can try.
Oh,
Come on. So you refuse to be pinned down to the first question that I'm asking?
I'm basically in my answer. I'm telling you how stupid I think the guy is.
No, you're well. Okay, I'm going to put down Val Deming because that's the only thing that you actually said.
He's not going to pick her, but I wish he would.
So
I wouldn't
put down Val Deming as an answer. Okay, Frank.
I think she's a
must be a lot
great
of fun
choice.
going to Ben and Jerry's to pick out an ice cream cone.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I'm not going into Ben and Jerry's right now.
I think I'm honestly I'm aiming towards Val Demings myself. I mean, the job that she did as the as the congressional impeachment manager. The questions that she asked during those hearings, the fact that wasn't she the chief of police as well as a mayor, and
Yeah.
I mean, she's got a lot going for her. I would put her at the very top. I honestly would have put, before she became somebody that was like a realistic pick. I love Kamala Harris. I think she's fantastic. I would think that she'd be great too, but that she does have people out there that probably, they know her too well, meaning that there's a reason not to like her. Whereas somebody like Val Demings, she comes into it not as this huge national name, but when you start to look into what she's done, and then think about where she's come from, she makes a lot of sense to me. So I choose her.
Okay, so you agree with what Keith?
I don't think I don't think that's exactly what Keith was saying, but kinda.
I think that's what. Yes.
You chose Keith's ice cream just then, my friend.
No, I'm just trying to get in under the wire with Keith before he leaves. Yeah. Okay, Denis.
I think Val Demings has an interesting attribute in that she's from Florida, and she could probably tilt the Florida Electoral College into Biden's camp, and that would be very important. However, I don't think she's the strongest candidate, precisely because she's not well known, and because of that, the right, the conservatives, can build up a false persona of her online, and you won't know it, and you'll just get this vague, oh geez, why do I like Val Demings thing. Kamala Harris has more of a substantial history about her, and I think more people who can speak in her support. She is from California. I don't think Biden's worried about losing California, so there's that to consider. My preference would be to see Kamala Harris.
Okay, Michael Markman.
I don't know. Val Demings is definitely the flavor of the weekend. She was on one of the Sunday shows and apparently did very well, though I didn't see it. I have no idea who he will pick, except I'm sure he will not pick Amy Klobuchar.
Okay, Steve Gillmor.
No, Brent.
What about Brent?
There's all these squares.
Saving the best for last.
I think Sarah Palin.
That was who I was actually going to
Brent,
say.
Brent, are you feeling left out?
I always feel kind of left out, so I don't feel any different. So I'm just kidding. No, all right. Do you want me to do it now, or
Sure. It's not a democracy. So, yeah.
No, I mean, I think Amy Klobuchar kind of it's not her time because of what's going on in Minnesota, and she has some ties to that apparently. Stacey Abrams, I don't think she's just she was only I think a state representative. She hadn't run anything larger than that. Although I think she, in the future she could definitely be on that stage. But I just don't know if she has enough experience right now. So that does kind of come down. Elizabeth Warren, I just don't think Biden is going to go that direction. So I was going between Kamala and what's her face down in Florida. I can't remember.
Val Demings.
Yeah, Val Demings. I think if it were up to Biden alone, I think it would probably be. I think it would be Kamala. But if he's going to play, I think he could play it safe and go with Val because she does come from Florida. She does have that the background of being a police chief. She handled herself really well during those hearings. She doesn't have a lot of enemies, although people don't know her as well either. I just don't think she has the negatives or could irk a bunch of stuff coming from Trump the way that Kamala could. So I'm going to say he plays it a kind of a little safe. And by getting Val, he still covers the black woman VP thing too. So I think he might go with her.
Who? Who?
Val Deming. Val Deming.
Yeah. By the way, and we still never talked about the Who either.
Oh, right.
Well, we'll get started on that right away.
Yeah.
That did happen too.
They were an incredible band.
Okay, Keith, you have to leave, right?
I do. I'm sorry to leave you all, but
That's all right. I mean, you haven't changed your opinion about anything, so I think you're safe.
you know, opinions take a long time to change, but they do change.
Well, you started the Val Demings thing here. This stampede started right in your head.
She impressed me. That's why.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also agree with the notion that Kamala Harris is probably a leader in this. I think for some strange reason that I can't really pin down, I think he might go with the senator from New Hampshire or Massachusetts.
Warren, Elizabeth
Warren, yeah. I'm not sure why. I mean, people say she's too old, but who's too old?
Bernie Bros.
Yeah, but she's his kind of comfort zone, right? He would go for her for bad reasons, not because she's Elizabeth Warren, the good reasons. He'd go for her for bad reasons because he's weak.
Okay, so the bottom line here is that presidential races are not decided by who's better; they're decided by who's least worse. And I think that. Thanks, Keith. And I fundamentally don't think that that the VP is going to be. I think Val Demings is a potential for being the candidate because not of her attributes as much as the weaknesses of some of the other possible VPs.
There was a book published recently asking, do running mates matter? And they did a statistical analysis of everyone going back to the 50s. And they seem to have come up with a conclusion that they sort of matter. They're not very effective at pulling along ethnic groups or geographic regions or their own state. But the choice of VP is the first substantial choice that any presidential candidate makes. And people look at that as a way of judging the top candidate.
Unless you're talking about Dan Quayle.
That's what I would think about. Even Dan Quayle, which
Sarah Palin
didn't sink his candidate. Sarah Palin might have sunk her candidate, but then there was also the economic collapse, which probably had more effect than her own idiocy.
I actually think Biden was a good kind of help Obama, because there was a certain element of white folks that they thought he was kind of good, but there was some unease, and I think Joe came in and Joe with that kind of personality, he kind of let people know, hey, he's a good guy. He's kind of a guy like us, and I think that kind of helped a little bit.
Well, I think that ironically, it helped firm up Obama's support among black people because they make
Well, he after winning South Carolina, I guess he won Iowa, and that made
Iowa was the first. Iowa was the first one that turned the black vote in favor of Obama.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of blacks were saying, "Yeah, well, I don't know if the white folks are going to go for him."
Right.
We don't know whether the white people will like him. And then you go to Iowa where there are no people of color.
All right. So I think I've gotten everybody's answer.
What about Tina's?
Well, Tina says I'm asking the wrong question. Gee, who knew?
What is Tina's question?
Tina, turn on your thing. I'll mute mine. Turn a picture on.
I'm not sure.
There you go.
There you are.
No, this isn't going to work.
It will. It does.
It's got an echo.
Someone has to
It's
be
not
like,
going to work.
Man, that echo.
oh,
Now
That's a good question, Tina.
good.
Can't hear it. That's why.
Now we can't hear
now we can't
anything.
hear Steve or Steve.
Okay, how about that? Go
There
ahead.
we are.
The question is, does the George Floyd uprising necessitate a black female vice presidential candidate?
I
this
think it does
discussion
at this
was going
point.
on before that.
It was going on before that, but I think after that, yeah. I think if you want to have people, that portion of the party excited enough to match the stuff coming on the other side, I think it does become. I think it would. I don't think he would be good for him not to do it at this point. I think it's.
I think
a certain percentage of folks.
I think you're right, Brent. I think that it negates Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
All right, so I want to go back
So
to
basically, yes.
what
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
you
I
took
think so.
the camera off.
I agree. Yeah, because I really didn't want to be on camera. Thank you.
Oh please.
I'll
You
get
like
you.
when you're on
Thank you,
camera.
Governor. Here you
Honey,
are.
I haven't
Big
wanted to be
time.
on camera
Big
since
time.
1943.
Big time.
Wow.
Okay, so I just want to clean up the Twitter is all important vote. The idea that I know what I think about it, so I'm not going to ask me. But Frank, you basically are in agreement that Trump is going to lose, therefore it is hugely important.
Yes.
Okay, Michael Markman.
Hi. What do you want me to do? Tell you that Twitter's important?
Well, basically, is Trump going to be successful at doing anything about the power of the social networks? And
No.
I think what you said was that it's not in his interest to do that.
A, it's not in his interest to do that. B, I don't think he's interested in a result. He's interested in a conversation. He loves to play the controversy, and he loves attention.
Yeah, but all those.
I once had a client years ago. Whenever we started a project, one of his questions to me was, "How will we know if we win?" And I think it's a really important question to ask about anything. How will we know if Trump is successful on Twitter? If the answer is the election, then we can't answer it till November 3rd, and I think he's going to lose. If the answer is how does Twitter behave, I'm not sure we're going to see any substantive change before then.
Okay, Dennis.
Pyrrhic victory. We're in a holding pattern, Trump and Twitter. Unless Trump makes a miscalculation, I don't think there'll be any further anything further from Twitter. This is Trump's to cause to increase or decrease.
Okay, and basically what I think is that I've already stated it, but I'll reaffirm it, which is I think that the decision on Jack Dorsey and the Twitter board's behalf to basically say this may be confusing, this may be this, and maybe that, it may cause some problems for us, but enough already. We're going to jump in, we're going to say something, and we reserve the right to do it again. And I think that it will turn out to be enormously important to the election.
But given the economy, the pandemic, and racism in the country, what happens on Twitter seems to me falls to the bottom of that stack.
I understand. What I say is that the emotional underpinning of this time is people's. If people really feel threatened that the voice that they achieved through the invention of social media is going to be muzzled by any actors be it Congress or Trump or whoever, that's going to be basically the last straw. And so I think that they're going to vote. I think they're going to vote Trump out, for not having the flexibility to understand how to pivot away from the challenge that Dorsey has made.
I think that's a reason that they would vote Trump out for any single thing, not just Twitter. That he has no ability to pivot in other than in the form of an actor on a stage, as opposed to.
But that it's been true for 4 or 10 years, depending upon whether you think that the first term of his presidency was the Apprentice. It's always been true that he's an actor and that it's a reality show, blah blah blah. But at some point, another force has to get their skin in the game here for there to be a change.
That other force on The Apprentice was called an editor.
Well, that's fair enough.
Can you imagine the Biden campaign or any pro-Biden PAC or super PAC investing money in an advertising campaign about Twitter? Can you imagine anybody calling attention to what Trump is doing on Twitter or what Twitter is doing to Trump? I can't.
I think that it's called attention to 24/7 by the news networks. They only talk about Twitter. That's all they're talking about.
I don't know.
There's
I've seen is shots from downtown around the U.S., and all I've seen is shots from hospitals, and all I've seen is shots, small businesses boarded up. I haven't seen it. Of course, they talk about Twitter. One of the things about Twitter is that it's a forum and a promotional vehicle for people in the media. So all the reporters are on Twitter, and naturally they talk to each other and they talk about what they talk about. That's
I think the
pandemic to their air.
How many people are on Twitter? There's another point is you're absolutely right, Michael, that we are all in the media and we are all talking about Twitter. There's still a giant electorate out there that isn't talking about Twitter that we're not even thinking of.
Jefferson Graham did a piece this week in USA Today. Twitter is the 20th most visited website. It's a fraction of the size of Facebook.
So when the pandemic,
Twitter is important.
We haven't talked about
Twitter is important to the people on Twitter. Twitter isn't important at large.
I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, but I don't think you're disagreeing with what I am saying. You may disagree with it, but you're not saying so.
Well, I am saying
the pandemic.
Twitter is the reason people will vote against Trump. I think that Twitter has to
work from
lot
home.
Of other things.
Before the pandemic, work from home was a theory. Now it's a reality. And when it changes back to the so-called new or next normal, it's still going to be true that work from home is now part of the equation.
Zoom may be more important.
I think Zoom is part of that.
Zoom is a piece of work from home, isn't it?
That's right. So when the pandemic occurred and people had to shelter in place, Twitter became much more important to the voting section. White or just over 65 voters, which are going to decide this election. Do you think that Twitter doesn't have an impact on that? I don't think
that many over 65s. I don't think that's a huge number that are using Twitter. I don't know that.
In the election, it's the swing vote in the election, and I don't think that you can discount the so-called free media that is what is going to run this election, which is controlled by Twitter.
Yeah,
not by the company.
Steve,
go ahead.
Steve, there's something we haven't talked about that I think is more important, and it would affect the black vote, and there are a lot of folks who voted for Barack Obama who stayed home for Hillary. How do you energize those people? The problems that we're seeing right now with all the riots have a root cause in systemic racial bias and systemic disadvantages that people have in not being able to get a decent job, to get a decent place to live, etc. Donald Trump started his career redlining and denying housing opportunities to people with skin that wasn't white down in Queens and wherever he had his apartments. If that became an issue, if that got any oxygen at all, that would be, I think, far more important than what Trump does with Twitter or anything else. It will provide a unifying force to bring out the black vote. There's an article in the Times.
Take that into Central Park 5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got that too. But there's an article in the Times today. I don't know if I can find it. The headline was basically that you need to be something more than not Donald Trump if you expect to win this election.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to reinforce why I said Val Demings, because I just thought of something maybe that makes sense. And that I think that exchange that Biden had with the reporter was trying to pin him down on do you have to have a black woman vice president? I definitely think he's going to. And I think he was really smart not to announce it right now, because there's no benefit for him to announce that right now. He needs to wait for the right time. Like if there's something, he's bound to say something kind of off, whatever, make you think. And he needs to have a good time to announce something like that where it matters most. And then I think I do think it's about Demis, because then the other thing he said will also come into play. He said, I am going to, my first appointee or announced nominee for the Supreme Court will be a black woman. So if he announces Val Demings at a good time, where he'll get a big benefit from, and then people put together the other thing he said about having a black woman as his first nominee for the Supreme Court, that's going to cause a lot of excitement in that community. And I think that will help to keep that sustained to the point where people are going to go to the polls just because of kind of that combination.
I like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, smart. You should be running his campaign.
That's a way to that's a way to take some pressure off of having to get Kamala Harris as the VP. Kamala Harris is more likely to be nominated for SCOTUS than Val Demings. I'm not even sure Val Demings is an attorney. Not that you have to be. You don't have to be an attorney to sit on the Supreme Court.
Right.
SCOTUS being Supreme Court of the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
I know all that lingo.
Whoa, SCOTUS, POTUS, FLOTUS.
So I think that we've pretty much mapped out the campaign. Basically June and late June and early July, whoever's leading in the polls traditionally in that time frame wins the election. So
Wow, getting
what
close.
we're talking about is 3 weeks of Biden sustains a 9-point advantage and across the swing states, in the battleground states, a 5-point advantage. I think it's likely that he wins the election.
It's like curing cement. It starts to cure in June, and it gets to be really hard to change by August to September.
Just to throw a wrench into that, wasn't Hillary Clinton ahead at that point in time?
I don't know if you were a supporter of Hillary Clinton, you were awful nervous in that time.
Yeah.
I was a ABT guy way back when, so
Anybody but Hillary?
that would be ABH. I said ABT.
Okay.
So we've mapped
Yeah.
out we've mapped out the campaign and explained the Twitter issue, right?
Well, I think nobody agrees with me about the Twitter thing. I think that it's exposed Trump's fundamental weakness because he's just bluffed and lost. And I think that as people realize that that's the case, they're going to put pressure on their Congress people and particularly the Senate races. And if he loses the Senate, or looks like he's going to lose the Senate, he's going to lose the presidency. So I think he's in trouble, and I think that's why he's doing what he's doing, and I don't think it'll work.
He is in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank, since he's not here, I'll thank Keith Teare. If he was here, I would probably forget him until the very end. But of course, everything that we've talked about with Keith, he's been banging away in his new newsletter, which is quite interesting, by the way. Venture Trends, I believe, is the newsletter. It's on Substack if you want to look for it. Brent Leary is on the LinkedIn network with broadcasts about every 10 seconds.
Yeah, I got to get going. You got to end this now so I can.
You go and talk about it on your own show.
Let me. Yeah, this is what happened on the Gillmor gang.
Well, and Frank Radice, what network are you with at this point?
All of them.
Well,
I'm with a very interesting network that shall not be named yet, in another country that also shall not be named yet. But there you go. That's all I have to say.
But
thanks for having me, though.
But you're on Twitter, correct?
Oh, I'm on Twitter. It's very important. No, it's it. Honestly, I wonder, Brent, why aren't you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook.
Are you? I couldn't. Which one are you not on? I kept trying to find you somewhere. No, it's Denis. Denis is not on Facebook, right? Denis, you're not on Facebook.
That's right. I cut the cord.
Ah, that's terrible because you're the only one I can't actually point at when I post this thing every week.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do get your pointers through other things like the Gillmor app. But
and LinkedIn and Twitter. And
yeah, I'm not. It's my little protest. I won't do anything with Zuckerberg ever again if I can help it.
So let's all just go back to MySpace.
Yeah, if we can find it.
We got this.
Yeah.
I never got MySpace. It wasn't interesting to me at any point.
We got email.
Yeah.
Michael Markman, what network are you on?
I'm on the YouTube, although very infrequently. But when I'm on, it's excellent, and I'm on the Twitter a lot, and also on the Facebook.
The YouTube is one worth talking about. It's if you talk about a place where an advertiser wants to buy, that's where they want to buy.
So I saw, since you bring it up, there was a report on Yahoo News that tonight's 60 Minutes is going to reveal that YouTube has dumped a whole bunch of Trump campaigns, has pulled them off. So that might be next week's Twitter subject.
You mean they drop campaign ads?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
I haven't seen anything about it on CBS's website, and I'm not too sure of the sourcing. But I think it's an interesting thing. If you tune into 60 Minutes tonight, you may learn that Jack Dorsey isn't the only one who is giving Trump some service.
Well, I think he started it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing what he's doing. And I think the political calculation is astute, which is Trump can't do anything about it.
Just make a lot of noise.
I want to thank our producer director Tina Chase Gillmor.
I will not be turning my
She will not be, but you can
Thank you. Thank you.
you can rewind to see what she looked like.
No, thanks. Thank you. No, and we will be cutting that out.
No editing. It's Zoom.
Oh, there will be post.
All right.
There will be blood.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.